You're listening to Just a Dude podcast with your host, Nathan. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's roll. Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, just a regular guy breaking down the week's biggest stories. We're diving into the top 10 news stories in the United States from June 20th to June 27th, 2025. I've scoured the headlines, cut through the noise, and I'm here to give you the rundown with a bit of common sense and perspective. So grab a coffee, kick back, and let's talk about what's been shaking up the country this week. No fluff, no spin, just the facts with a little bit of that Just a Dude vibe. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with some big international news that got everyone talking. On June 23rd, President Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, calling it a step toward lasting peace in the Middle East. Now, this is a bold move, and you've got to give credit where it's due. Trump's been pushing hard to stabilize the region, and the ceasefire comes after the U.S. B-2 bombers struck Iran's nuclear facility. The man's not messing around when it comes to showing strength, and it looks like Iran got the message. The base near Doha, Qatar, was mostly cleared of U.S. aircraft before Iran's retaliatory strikes, which shows some smart planning by our military. Now, the left-leaning media like CNN is already nitpicking, saying Trump's claim that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated might not hold up. They're pointing to a leaked report suggesting the strikes didn't fully take out Iran's capabilities. Look, I'm no fan of leaks that undermine our commander-in-chief, but let's be real. You don't poke the bear and expect to walk away unscathed. Trump's team is projecting confidence, and I think that's what matters. Showing the world we mean business while brokering a ceasefire, that's leadership. Of course, not everyone's on board. Iran's supreme leader is out there claiming victory, which sounds like posturing to save face. Meanwhile, some folks on social media are buzzing about how this could shift global alliances, especially with Pakistan reconsidering nominating Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize after the bombing. That's a head-scratcher, but it shows how high the stakes are. The way I see it, Trump's playing chess while others are playing checkers, trying to keep America's interests first. This ceasefire could be a game-changer, but it's fragile. Israel's still hitting Palestinian aid sites, and that's causing some tension. If Trump can keep this momentum going, it's a win for the U.S. leadership on the world stage. Let's hope this holds and we don't see more chaos. For now, I'm giving props to the administration for taking a tough stance and getting results. Keep your eyes on this one, folks, because it is a big deal and could affect our national security. Next up, we've got protests popping off in major cities like Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Chicago over Trump's immigration crackdowns. Starting back around June 10th, reports say the administration ramped up immigration raids, and folks are not happy about that. California Governor Gavin Newsom called it a brazen abuse of power, and Los Angeles even slapped a curfew on protesters. Look, I get it. Nobody likes seeing families caught up in this. But let's talk straight. Securing the border and enforcing our laws isn't optional. Trump's doing what he promised, and that's what got him elected. Not to mention, that's his job. The media is framing this as heartless, with images of protesters marching in the streets. But let's not forget why these policies are in place. Illegal immigration costs taxpayers billions of dollars annually, and the crime rate in some of these sanctuary cities aren't exactly helping their case. I'm not saying this is perfect, but the alternative is open borders, and that's a non-starter for most Americans. The protests are loud, and they're not changing the fact that the law is the law. On the flip side, you've got folks on social media pointing out how these raids are hitting communities hard, and yeah, it's messy. Nobody wants to see kids caught in the crossfire, but the solution isn't to just let everyone stay without vetting. The administration's got to find a balance, crack down on illegal entries while keeping the process humane. That's the tough part, and I hope they're listening to those concerns without caving to the mob. At the end of the day, Trump's base loves this because it shows he's serious about border security. Newsom and the blue state governors can cry foul all they want, but they've been dodging accountability for years. I say let's enforce the rules, deport those who broke them, and build a system that rewards legal immigration. That's the American way, and I'm betting most of you listening agree. Here's one that's flying under the radar, pun intended. The Trump administration is looking at privatizing the U.S. air traffic control system after a string of technical outages and staffing shortages. This story broke around June 21st with reports highlighting issues at places like Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport in Alabama. Now, I'm all for efficiency, and if the private sector can do a better job than the government, I say let's give it a shot. Government bureaucracy's been gumming up the works for way too long. The current system's run by the FAA, and let's be honest, it's not exactly a well-oiled machine. Nothing by the government is, really. Delays, outages, and understaffing have been a headache for travelers, and Trump's team is saying privatization could streamline things. Think about it. Private companies have to compete, so they've got incentive to innovate and keep costs down. The left's already whining about corporate greed, but I'd rather have a system that works than one that's stuck in the 1970s. Now, there's a catch. Privatization means handing over a critical system to companies that, might prioritize profits over safety if we're not careful. That's where strong oversight comes in, and I trust Trump's team to set clear rules. X posts are mixed. Some folks are excited about faster flights and fewer delays, while others worry about job losses for current controllers. These are all fair points, but I lean toward giving it a try. If we can set a system that's safer, faster, and cheaper, that's a win for everyone. The government's had decades to fix this, and they haven't. Let's see if a free market can do better. Keep an eye on this one. It could change how we fly, and I'm hoping for smoother skies ahead. Moving on to domestic policy, some Republican senators are pushing back on Trump's budget reconciliation bill, which includes cuts to Medicaid. This story has been heating up since June 26th, with protesters hitting the streets saying these cuts could leave millions without health care. Now, I'm all for fiscal responsibility. Medicaid's ballooned into a budget buster, and we can't keep spending like there's no tomorrow. But I'll admit, cutting health care for the needy is a tough sell. The left's screaming that this is heartless, and the optics aren't really great. Protesters are out there saying folks will have to choose between rent and food, and that's a real concern. But let's look at the bigger picture. The national debt's a ticking time bomb, and programs like Medicaid are eating up way more than we can afford. Trump's trying to rein it in, and I respect the effort to get our house in order. That said, some GOP senators are balking, worried about the political fallout. They're not wrong. Voters don't like hearing about cuts to safety nets. On social media, people are split. Some are cheering the push for smaller government, while others are sharing stories of folks who rely on Medicaid. It's a messy debate, but I lean toward trimming the fat while protecting the truly vulnerable. We need reform, not a free-for-all. Trump's got to tread carefully here. If he can show these cuts are part of a broader plan to fix the economy without leaving people in the dust, he might win over the skeptics. For now, I'm rooting for a budget that prioritizes American taxpayers and gets us back to fiscal sanity. Let's see how this one plays out. This next one's a wild story out of California. Daniel Park, a 32-year-old accused of supplying chemicals for a bombing at a Palm Springs fertility clinic, died in federal custody in Los Angeles on June 24th. Park had fled to Poland after the attack, but was extradited back to the United States. The bombing was tied to anti-nationalist beliefs, basically folks who think having kids is bad for the planet. It's crazy stuff, right? Now, the cause of Park's death hasn't been released yet, and that's got people talking. Was it foul play? Negligence? We don't know yet. But when someone dies in custody, it raises red flags. The left's already spinning this as a failure of the justice system, but let's not jump to conclusions. Remember Epstein? The guy was involved in a serious crime. Bombing a clinic isn't exactly a misdemeanor. Still, we do need answers. On social media, folks are buzzing about the implications. Some are saying this shows how extreme ideologies are getting out of hand, while others are focused on the custody issue, demanding transparency. I'm with them on that. Let's get the facts before we start pointing fingers. But I'll say this, if you're blowing up clinics, you're not exactly a hero, no matter your cause. This story is a reminder of how divided things are getting. Anti-nationalism? That's a new one for me, but it shows how far some folks will go to push their beliefs. For now, I'm hoping the feds come clean with what happened to Park and make sure justice is served for the victims of that bombing. Here's a quirky one. Trump's administration is moving the Housing Department's offices to Virginia, which is displacing the National Science Foundation. This broke around June 26, and it got people scratching their heads. On one hand, it's classic Trump, shaking things up, cutting through red tape, and maybe saving taxpayer dollars while consolidating. On the other, it's causing a stir for folks in the NSF who have to find a new home. The move's being sold as a way to streamline government operations, and I'm definitely all for that. D.C. is a swamp, figuratively and sometimes literally, and getting some agencies out might help cut costs and bureaucracy. Plus, Virginia's right next door, so it's not like they're shipping jobs to Timbuktu. I'm betting this is part of Trump's bigger plan to make governments leaner and meaner. That said, the NSF folks aren't thrilled, and I get it. Nobody likes being told to pack up and move. Some posts on social media are calling this a power play to disrupt the deep state, while others say it's just bad planning. Either way, it's a bold move, and I'm curious to see if it actually saves money or just creates more chaos. For now, I'm giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. If this move cuts waste and gets the housing department working better for Americans, I'm all for it. Let's just hope they've got a solid plan to keep the NSF running smoothly. Change is messy, but sometimes it's what we need. Over in Atlanta, CDC workers held a protest on June 26th, freaking out about RFK Jr.'s influence in the Trump administration. Apparently, they're worried he's pushing anti-vaccine policies or shaking up the public health system. Look, RFK Jr.'s a polarizing guy, and I'm not here to defend every word he said, but the CDC's had its own issues with trust since COVID. Maybe a shakeup isn't the worst thing in the world. The media is playing this up as a crisis, saying RFK Jr. is going to gut science or something. But let's be real, the CDC's been caught flat-footed before, and a lot of folks don't trust him like they used to. If RFK Jr. is pushing for more transparency or accountability, I'm not mad at that at all. The protesters are acting like it's the end of the world, but I think they're just scared of change. On X, you've got some folks cheering RFK Jr. for challenging the establishment, while others are worried he's too fringe. I lean toward giving him a chance to prove himself. The health system's bloated, and if he can cut through the nonsense while keeping vaccines safe and available, I'm listening. The CDC needs to stop whining and start showing results. This one's going to keep brewing, no doubt. Trump's backing RFK Jr., so am I, and that's a signal he's serious about reforming healthcare. Let's see if they can deliver without throwing out the baby with the bathwater. For now, I'm rooting for less bureaucracy and more common sense in public health. Here's a story that's got the energy sector buzzing. On June 27th, reports came out that the Trump administration's looking to end tax incentives for solar developers who buy American. This is part of a broader push to rethink green energy subsidies, and I'm all for questioning handouts that don't deliver. Solar's been propped up by taxpayer dollars for years, and it's time to see if it can stand on its own. The left's losing it, saying it could tank their solar industry and hurt American manufacturing. NPR is reporting that millions of jobs could be at risk, but I'm skeptical at that fact. The free market's the best way to figure out what works, and if solar's as great as they say, it shouldn't need subsidies to survive. Plus, let's not pretend these green policies haven't lined the pockets of some big corporations. These green policies are big moneymakers. That said, some folks on social media are worried about the timing. Solar's been a bright spot for manufacturing, and pulling the rug out now could hurt workers. I get that. But I think long-term, we need energy policies that prioritize affordability and independence, not government cronyism. Trump's betting on that, and I'm inclined to agree. This move could shake up the energy market, and I'm hoping it pushes innovation over reliance on subsidies. Keep an eye on gas and oil prices, too. If solar takes a hit, traditional energy might get a boost. For now, I'm all for letting the market sort this out. This next one's causing a stir in the immigration world. Starting around June 23rd, the U.S. announced that foreign students applying for F, M, and J visas have to unlock their social media accounts for government review. This is part of Trump's broader push to tighten immigration vetting, and I say it's about time we got serious about who's coming into our country. The left's calling this an invasion of privacy, and yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. Nobody likes Big Brother snooping through their posts. But let's be real. Social media is a window into someone's beliefs and intentions, not to mention sometimes their mind. If you're applying to study here, it's not crazy to think we'd want to know if you're posting about, say, blowing things up. National security comes first, period. On social media, some folks are cheering this as a smart move to catch red flags, while others are screaming about civil liberties. I get the concern, but if you're a guest in our country, you play by our rules. The data shows most Americans want tougher immigration policies, and this fits the bill. Still, I hope they're focusing on real threats and not just fishing for dumb memes. This policy's just getting started, so we'll see how it plays out. If it keeps us safer without turning into a surveillance state, I'm on board. Trump's sending a message. America's open, but we're not naive. This is a stance I can get behind. And not to mention, if you want to keep your social media private, you can stay where you are. Wrapping up, we've got a wild international story. On June 20th, Pakistan announced it was nominating Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize for his role in the Israel-Iran ceasefire. But by June 23rd, some Pakistani politicians were backtracking, saying the U.S. bombing of Iran's nuclear sites changed the game. Talk about a plot twist. Look, I think Trump deserves some credit for brokering that ceasefire. It's no small feat. The Nobel folks might not agree, but Pakistan's initial nomination shows the world's noticing Trump's impact. The fact that they're waffling now just proves how tough it is to please everyone in geopolitics. Bombing Iran was a bold call, and it's got consequences, but it also showed strength. On social media, people are all over the place. Some are laughing at the idea of Trump getting a Nobel, while others say it's well deserved for shaking up the status quo. I lean toward the latter. The guy's not perfect, but he's getting results where others just talk. Pakistan's flip-flopping is their problem, not ours. This story is a reminder of how fast things move in global politics. Trump's playing a high-stakes game, and I'm betting he's got more surprises up his sleeve. For now, I'm proud to see America leading with strength and not apologizing for it. And that's a wrap for this week's episode of Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. From ceasefires to protests to government shakeups, this has been a wild ride as usual. Thanks for tuning in, folks. If you like this show, hit that subscribe button, share it with your buddies, and let me know what you think on social media. This is Nathan, Just a Dude keeping it real, signing off. Stay sharp, stay free, and I'll catch you on the next episode.